Welcome everyone to this new webinar of the DEPLOYTOUR Beyond Borders, where we discuss and comment on the synergies between tourism data space and other data spaces. Just a kind reminder that this webinar will be recorded. Please mute your microphones, and at the end of the presentations, you will be able to make comments or questions. Today, we would like to thank the European Mobility Data Space for joining us, as well as all of you for participating. And we will especially thank to Mr. Christopher Massi, who is a policy officer at DG Connect. He will address some words at the opening as opening speaker for the European Commission. So please, Mr. Christoph, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. So yes, on behalf of the European Commission, I'm really happy to open this workshop, and I would like to thank the organizers, DEPLOYTOUR and also deployEMDS for this very timely and relevant discussion. And thank everyone for joining today. So over the past years, unlocking the potential of data in strategic sectors and making it easier to share and to access data has been a strategic priority for the European Commission. We have invested in the period of 2021-2024 around 336 million euros in the creation of common European data spaces in key sectors like tourism and like mobility, which play an essential role in our economy and our society. And in the coming years, we will continue investing in key common European data spaces to facilitate trusted and controlled and secure ways of sharing and accessing data. And the cross-sectoral interoperability has always been at the core of this strategy. We have supported initiatives like the Data Spaces Support Center to provide common guidance and tools across sectors in simple, so an open source middleware platform that can be used by different data spaces. We will have an ongoing standardization request. So we are trying to put together these different initiatives to help achieve this interoperability across sector. But we know that there are challenges that remain on the technical front, but especially on the governance level, and we'll come back to that. But while this last phase over the past years and also the beginning of these actions that will be presented today was a lot about creating the infrastructure, the governance to access data. Now it's really about creating value and scaling up these ecosystems and achieving really the impact we want with sharing data, notably also for to support the adoption of artificial intelligence in key sectors. And so today I'm really happy that we will be able to discuss how real-world use cases supported by the projects and also across sectors are able to support innovation and improve our public policies and create new business opportunities in tourism and mobility. So really looking forward to the discussion and happy also to participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your words, and thank you for attending today. And now I will give the floor to Dolores Ordóñez. She's the Director of Vendor Solution and the Coordinator of DEPLOYTOUR. She will give us an overview of the project. Dolores, when you want. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I think it's important to start giving the thanks to deployEMDS, to Christopher and all the team, because this is one of the activities that we thought at the beginning of the project that could be very interesting for our project, but also for data spaces in general. We always think and we always mention that tourism is quite a transversal sector, and of course with mobility we have a very direct connection, and especially now that also we are under the same DG. Tourism is under DG Move, the same as transport and mobility. So when we started thinking how can we better contribute to generate these ecosystems in which it was understood how two data spaces could work together, it was very easy to start working with deployEMDS, and I think it is important today to generate also this discussion. So as you have seen in the agenda today, we are going to make short presentations about the project, so you have a general overview what the DEPLOYTOUR is about, what the deployEMDS is about. But then we are going to focus on the pilots, and what is important today also is to generate the discussion. So I really invite everybody to participate actively through the chat, and also raising your hand, because what is important today is to start also generating the discussion with all the community on how these two data spaces could continue working together. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to make a short presentation on about our project. So I hope you see my presentation. It should start in presentation mode. Do you see it well?
No, not now it's okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so the DEPLOYTOUR, it's the deployment of the common European tourism data space is quite a large project, 15.3 million euros. It was approved under the program Digital 2023, Cloud Data AI 05, and it has a funding rate of 50%. It involves 43 organizations from 13 member states, and was started in November 2024. So we are reaching this 1 year implementation project. As you can see, we are a mix of different typologies of entities, in which we have the public sector represented by national ministries, regional entities, local entities, but also big companies, multinationals, but also SMEs, and of course, research centers and academia. So we are quite a good mix of partners, in which we are also including other data spaces, which is also important for us to implement the project. So as a main objectives, we are developing this common European tourism data space to improve data access and sharing. What is important is at the end of the project to facilitate this flow of data, which is going to also to contribute to strengthen this EU digital sovereignty. And what is important is to boost this competitiveness of tourism sustainability, helping DMOs and also SMEs. The ecosystem is quite complex. We have a large number of initiatives now running related to that spaces. We have at European level different initiatives. We have also a national level different initiatives running at the level of the common European data spaces. We have 14 common European data spaces. We put here the deployEMDS cultural heritage data space because they are directly involved in the proposal through some partners. We have private data spaces or public data spaces as the Austrian tourism data space. But then what it's also a big complexity in the tourism sector is the huge amount of the different actors that are composing this ecosystem, the tourism industry. And then we have all the different use cases. Where we are now, so we are in this first year of implementation. What we have been working in the rule book. I will present it later on, but this is already available. We have been defining the technical infrastructure, and here we have also to be grateful to the deployEMDS, because since they are more mature than us, we have learned also from their side. We have defined our 5 use cases, and we are working very hard in the governance framework. And as Christoph has mentioned, interoperability is a key issue, also ensuring transversality and synergies. And since we are an European project, communication, dissemination, exploitation are very important. In our high-level roadmap, what we're doing until now is, okay, we have the use cases, and we really need to start gathering all the requirements of the use cases. We have mapped different requirements that exist at the level of the use cases, but also a broader level. We are working in the data products, so we have make this work with each use cases seeing which are the data sources that are going to be needed to implement the different pilots, but at the same time, which are the data products that they can use, and defining the data models. So we are generating this data space catalog, but at the same time, we have to work with some standards and semantics. And we are working in defining this architecture, the deployment of the data space components, and the deployment of them. Of course, the governance layer is it's around everything, because I think it's very important to define this, that we are complaining with everything. Relating the technical requirements, we are still in this phase of well, we have already obtained the data sources and defined the data product. This is something that is going to be quite live during the project's life. And then we have identified and analyzed these data products for all the requirements and capabilities of all the partners. What we want is to define also this minimum viable product, and then we are now working in this. How are we going to onboard participants? This is one of the questions that we have also at the level of all the data spaces, also linked with the work that the Data Spaces Support Center is implementing, because at the end of the day, we have to ensure that this data is going to flow not only within our data space, but also we are going to be able to support that data from other data spaces can be used. So how all this data exchange is going to be produced. Governance is really important at different levels, but also at different layers, because we have to check how this governance is defined at the level of organizational, legal, semantic, and technical. As I've mentioned, we have already defined our rulebook. The rulebook is already available in our website. We have tried to go a little bit further, not stopping in this part of the data provider, service provider, and the usual parts, but we wanted to go more in deep. We have done a very in-deep analysis, working together at the level of the consortium, but also with the support of external stakeholders. And we have this document that is going to be part also of the rulebook that we have started to develop. As I have mentioned at the beginning, transversality, complementarity, and synergies, it's a key part of the project. We are working with all common European data spaces. This is the third webinar that we organize every 2-3 months, depending on the year. We are going to organize this kind of webinars, but also we are generating synergies with other key projects as D3 Hub, but also align what the Data Space Support Center, Simple, EDIC are implementing, and also initiatives at national level and also local level. But it's important is also to be aligned with other regulations, initiatives. In our case, the tourism transition pathway, since the data space it's part of the key points of the pillars of the transition pathway. At the end, the common European data space, it's important to generate this awareness to improve the availability and discoverability, and we think that this discoverability is key in our data space. We are seeing that every time more data spaces are emerging, and this is going to enrich the availability of data that is going to be shared, and that's why it's going to have such an important impact in our industry. And also what is important is to continue working in this data interoperability. It's going to be complex, but it's something in which we have to work at the level of the tourism data space, but also how are we going to also to be able to ensure this semantic interoperability with other data spaces. We have to provide some services. We're going to provide also this training, mentoring, consulting, and also to help the pilot, but also the different stakeholders that are going to onboard. And we're going to define and to implement the project based of 5 main use cases, as you can see are quite good spread all over Europe, and they are quite different. And then you will have the explanation of one of them, just to give you a flavor. We have one which is a cross-border pilot between Slovenia and Austria. We have one related to mature tourist destinations, another one related to MICE industry. We have here IONA-X that is going to explain. We have one more related to cultural heritage that we have already had a webinar with the cultural heritage data space. and the last one that is related to empower SMEs. Any information that we want for us, you have our website, you have our social networks. Please follow us, and anything you need from our side, we're here available. And thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you, Dolores. And I think now it's time to know a bit more about the EDMS. So we have today with us Morgan Siegel and Christopher Newman from Acatech. They are the most suitable persons to explain us the EDSM. So sorry. So please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. While Morgan pulls up the slides, short introduction from my side. My name is Christopher Newman. I am the coordinator of the deployEMDS project, and joined here by Morgan Siegel and several of our partners in the call as well. Great to see all this interest. We will keep it short and sweet so that we save time to hear about the use cases and can go into the discussion afterwards. Let me just start with a very quick introduction to the Common European Mobility Data Space, or EMDS. At the European level, the EMDS initiative, which is a longer-term initiative, builds on two key strategies that you see pictured here. The European Data Strategy, aiming to create a single market for data across Europe, and the Smart and Sustainable Mobility Strategy, which is about transforming the EU transport system. Now, the EMDS initiative brings these two visions together. It aims to improve the way mobility data is shared and used to make Europe's transport more efficient, safe, sustainable, and resilient. To do that, it addresses three major challenges, actually many more challenges, but we've listed three for you here today. First, overcoming the reluctance to share data by fostering trust. Second, making mobility data easier to find and use. And third, promoting interoperability in the sectors so that data can flow in a standardized and useful manner. Now, on the next slide, you'll see that within this broader initiative, pictured here in the middle, the Common European Mobility Data Space, the deployEMDS project plays a very practical role. Our focus in the project is on deploying real-world urban mobility use cases to demonstrate how this long-term vision can work in practice. Our goal is to pilot the data space approach by implementing these use cases, breaking down data silos in Europe, and enabling the creation of new innovative services. And you'll hear about one of those just a little bit later in the presentation. At the same time, and as you'll see here, deployEMDS is just one piece of the bigger puzzle, complementary to many other efforts. And you can see many acronyms here that now repeat in the presentations, and other deployment projects in other domains like our sister project, DEPLOYTOUR, here in the webinar. So our project is part of a wider ecosystem of initiatives, and it's important to stress this, that this is all happening at the same time, and we're figuring this out together, working to transform Europe's data landscape across sectors. And with that, with the strategic framing, I'll hand over to Morgan to tell you more about the project itself.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris, and good morning, everyone. Within the context that Chris described, deployEMDS is a 3-year project that's implemented by 45 European partners. And the project is developing technical infrastructure and shared governance mechanisms to facilitate mobility data sharing, and applying these in 16 use cases spanning 9 cities and regions in Europe. Regarding the technical infrastructure, deployEMDS has extensively tested different software stacks for data spaces to define which is the best fit for our project's 9 cities and regions. And based on this, the project is now developing key technical components which can be applied by those cities. For example, a standardized connector service. On the governance side, the project has mapped existing frameworks and legislation for mobility data sharing, and the focus is now on defining governance mechanisms for the project and supporting the 16 use cases on governance topics. And through these efforts, one of the overall aims is to build a federated metadata catalog, which will make relevant urban mobility data, namely the data from the project's use cases, more easily findable. And if you're interested in learning more about these technical or governance efforts, please check out these 2 reports, which are published on the deployEMDS website and linked on the slide. At the heart of the deployEMDS project are its 16 use cases in the 9 locations noted here. And these use cases are where the technical and governance efforts will be applied and where the data space approach will be demonstrated. Our use cases focus on a variety of mobility topics, such as improving multimodal mobility, traffic management, accessibility, and the user experience. And many of them are directly relevant for tourism. For example, in Lisbon, one use case aims to improve bus scheduling by leveraging an algorithm to find routes where different modes of transport are conflicting. And this algorithm or index would be used to optimize bus schedules locally in Lisbon, as well as published in the metadata catalog that I mentioned, so other cities can leverage it as well. And these 16 use cases are now moving into a period of robust implementation as we enter our final project year. Lastly, we would love for you to engage with the project. On the deployEMDS website, you can sign up for our newsletter, read the project deliverables, as well as register for a free self-paced training course on the EMDS. Thank you very much, and that's all from me.
Thank you so much. It's really interesting. You have mentioned the pilots and your use cases, and now it's the turn of Clemence Castel from Instant System to present one of the deployEMDS use cases in the Île-de-France region. Please, Clemence, you have the floor.
Many thanks. Can you see my slides? Well, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone, and thank you for giving us the floor here. I'm in charge of innovation partnership at Instant System. We're a mobility as a service platform developer. Among others, we developed the application for Île-de-France Mobilité for the Île-de-France region. And we're leading the Île-de-France use case in the frame of the deployEMDS project. So what's the challenge we're facing? Just a reminder here to put a bit of context. Let's look at the Île-de-France region. It's powerhouse, but it's under pressure regarding commuting mobility. It's home to 18% of the French population on just 2% of the country lands. This results in 12 million commuters every single day, and the average commute takes 33 minutes. And for over a third of workers, this commute negatively impacts their well-being. So critically, almost half of these commuters, 49%, are using their cars. And the daily congestions and reliance on cars is the core problem that we need to solve. These figures are from 2 years ago, but they're still representative of the situation. So what are our objectives with our use cases? By creating value out of mobility data, we want to tackle the mobility challenges due to commuting faced by large employers in Île-de-France and contribute to reduce them. We want to facilitate multimodality and enable employers to lower their environmental impact induced by commuting. And we want to make a data product out of journey planner and mobility as a service usage data for wide exploitation by mobility planners, researchers, industries, of course, and for us also for continuous optimization. And on the left, you can see how we are organized in this use case. So working in data space collaboration with EONA X at the center, which will also be interfaced with the European Mobility Data Space. As for Instant System, we act as data integrator, but also as data provider in this use case. And En Route is our partner as a transit data expert. It's our advisor, watching regulations and standards and advising on best standards to adopt to ensure compliance and interoperability. So our pilots are centered around a mobility as a service application dedicated to companies, which is called EMI, which enables employer to deploy a mobility budget, we call it forfait mobilité durable in France, towards their employees. So in France, it allows to provide untaxed budget up to 800 euros to employees per year for sustainable mobility expenses. So the app also contain a virtual credit card. It's a mobility as a service application, but it also contain a virtual credit card to easily spend this budget. It's blocked, of course, to mobility expenses and the mobilities that are allowed by the employer. So in the use case one, what we want to do is to integrate electric vehicle charging stations into the interactive map and the intermodal journey planner to contribute to wider adoption first of electric vehicles and to encourage multimodality also by showing charging points at multimodal nodes and park and ride facilities, and thus encourage commuters to end trips in public transport and soft mobilities. And in the use case two, we want to, we're collecting data from the usage of the app to feed it into a mass data product, usage data product, to enable mobility KPI monitoring. So it can be to employers to monitor employees' mobility habits, but also for cities, which are our main clients, to assess sustainable urban mobility plans' impact. So currently, we're launching a working group at national level to draw a stakeholder mapping of the exploitation of usage data of mobility as a service solutions, and the results will be shared, of course, in the deployEMDS framework. So EV charging data is a big topic, and our partner En Route realized a study in which they make advice for better data sharing. So En Route study confirmed that EV charging is the next critical topic for transport authorities. Their primary finding is that the biggest challenge is data fragmentation of all those actors and different systems. So there are many small data producers, and the research shows a clear need for an authority to act as a central data aggregator. And crucially, En Route work highlighted the tangible success factor. The uptake of electric vehicles accelerates significantly when charging is made available in combination with public transport services. So a good point for us because that's what we want to encourage with our use case. And as regards real-time data, the conclusions are that data spaces are the most relevant solution, especially regarding charging points availability. So they facilitate the data spaces, the direct one-to-one data exchange which are needed to make this information reliable and accessible within mobility as a service solutions. So now we're at the stage of connecting to the data space EONA-X. We have access to their catalog. We connect with the other data space members, and there are lots of touristic organizations. So we make emerge lots of ideas to build value from touristic data, also integrated in mass applications. So I want to explain a few ideas out of these reflections. Our first concept is what we could call smart charging with local experiences. Imagine this: instead of just waiting for your electric vehicle to charge, you could link that charging time to visiting a restaurant nearby, for example, a local shop or a museum. And when turning necessary delay into a valuable part of the journey, actually. So this synergy doesn't just make EV charging ownership more convenient, it would actively encourage the use of electric vehicles by integrating them seamlessly into the local tourism economy. And a second idea, building on this, we could fundamentally transform mobility as a service into a powerful tool for travel planning also. So instead, for example, of just searching for an address, users could search for experiences. For example, they could type family-friendly attractions near me, or an activity with my dog this weekend, and get instant recommendations, and automatically know the trip in public transport and soft mobility to go to it. So our mobility as a service platform can then help tourists plan their entire itinerary, calculating the most optimal routes and travel time between every stops. This turns a simple mobility app into finally a comprehensive travel companion. And most importantly, by making it easy and intuitive, we encourage tourists to use public transport and micromobility options in order to reduce congestion and make urban exploration more sustainable for everyone, and reduce reliance of tourists of cars. And I live in the south region, and I can tell you that it's a very touristic region on the Côte d'Azur. Lots of tourists are coming with their car, and if we could show them touristic points of interest accessible by public transport and mobilities that are developing there, to show them that they could abandon their car while coming for the vacation, it would be a great thing. So that was it from my side, and thank you very much for your attention. Oh, we can, your mic is off, Olga, sorry.
Sorry, my apologies. Thank you very much, Clemence, for your presentation. It's really, really lots of it was really interesting. And we are going to stay a little bit more in Ile-de-France, because now Jonathan Hofstadler from Iona X will present one of the DEPLOYTOUR pilots, which is also there, if I'm not wrong. Jonathan, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm so happy to see the evolution of this use case that we started in deployEMDS. I just want to, as a precaution, so you don't compare both, we started a year after this second pilot in Ile-de-France in the tourism area. But it's on another topic, which is quite actually, they can all be linked because we're going to speak about business travel, what we call in the industry MICE travel, meeting, incentive, congress, and events. I will give you some insights about where we're at and what we want to do. So what we have in the different pilots of DEPLOYTOUR are different challenges that the tourism industry as a whole face. There's unbalanced tourism in certain areas. There's very mature destinations that are not trying to attract more visitors, but better visitors. In the Ile-de-France area, what we're trying to do is to improve the economical impact and reduce the environmental impact of this meeting, incentives, and congress and events segment of the tourism industry. It's also particularly followed in France, but locally in Paris, as we changed also our national objectives, which were previously to attain 100 million visitors every year. Now, the announced objective this summer was to attain 100 billion euros of economic impact for the tourism industry by 2030. We're around 71 billion, so there's quite an increase to work on. And the the business tourism is one of the levers that seems to be quite promising, especially in the Paris area. However, when you go and speak to the different stakeholders on the ground, may they be private or public, well, you see that to drive these strategies, it's quite complicated, just even to measure how are we going to measure that impact? The data is quite fragmented. The DMOs themselves do quite an impressive job on promoting the Paris region and area, and trying to promote things like leisure, business and leisure, you know, so that you want to prolong your stay or come back once you've discovered Paris on a business trip, you want to come back with your family. So they're doing really a great job. However, they have very little knowledge on actually the impact in the private stakeholders. The event organizers have data, but the venues have another part of the data, and each of them, you know, is not always happy to share their treasured data. So there is something to do there. Also in the freshness, not just the availability and discoverability, but also in this freshness. The DMOs themselves have conducted quite a few studies, but they are quite costly. And so they do them maybe every 5 years, more or less. But some of them with COVID actually still are relying on some studies that are before 2020, early 2019. Some actually received the information about their studies conducted in 2022 only in last December. And so they already know that some of the information that they have is wrong or is changing so fast that they have to guess. What we would like to do is to help observation, but not only. We think that it's also by improving the experience of business travelers, which are wanting more flexibility, but also hyper-personalized experiences. And there's a competition in Europe between different cities, but not just in Europe, also in the world. For some large world events, they can go in Europe 1 year, in Dubai another year, in the States another year. So Europe as a whole needs to stay competitive and offer all these services that make it a memorable experience. And of course, all of this needs to be done in a way that reduces the impact. For instance, trying to incentivize people to take public transportation, to try to reduce their consumptions. And so this is all needs to be measured if we want to improve it. Now, how are we going to do this? We conducted quite a number of interviews with people from the consortium, of course, but also going beyond, as some of our participants are networks. And on the ground, we were very, very happy to see that the industry is very receptive. Everyone agrees that there's a problem to solve. We don't all agree yet on the solution, but we are really making big, giant steps in that direction. The first angle is to have holistic sector intelligence, which would benefit to everyone, to get the same KPIs, because when you need to compare, it's very hard to benchmark when people have statistics that are not the same. Understanding also the profiles of visitors, trying to know also their behaviors. Everyone knows only their parts, but they don't really get a holistic, a complete vision of what is happening as a whole in the travel of these people. They only know the venue or the hotel, etc., the transportation, but no one knows the whole trip. And also to be able, once you observe something, to act on it and to try at least to get a little bit more freshness. If it's not real-time data streaming, at least that you get more frequently some data that can help you manage your strategies. And of course, benchmarking would be for me a way to start scaling this use case, to give it this European impact, as we could use maybe some of these KPIs to benchmark other areas in Europe or in the world by using data from different providers, and as well conducting the European strategy, as it seems that of course we're all one big destination if we look at a world level. So if we need to sum it up, everyone agrees that we all have a part of the solution. We are trying to fix it. We're really actively working with some DMOs here on improving their statistics on the mice sector. And now the next step for this fall will be working more closely with event organizers to see how we can also improve the experience of travelers going to Ile-de-France. That's it for me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you, all of you, indeed. And now it's time for those who would like to make a question, ask something, or simply make a comment. Please raise your hands. Don't be shy. Or if you don't want to talk, you can write your questions or your comments in the chat. Who wants to be the first? No questions? No comments? Should I start? Okay, I have a question. Well, I think synergies between both data spaces are really clear. And in the examples we have seen today, where did you see the biggest opportunities for connecting mobility and tourism data to make travel in Europe more affordable, especially these days, and more sustainable?
Just to whom is the question addressed? Is it for me?
Yeah, for you, for instance.
All right. Well, in the way that we built EONAX, I'm not trying to promote EONA. In particular, it just happens here we have two use cases that are in the same data space. The ecosystem itself is built around different verticals. And this is why we're actually part of these two common European data space initiatives. We think that mobility and tourism are linked, of course. You can't travel if you're not going anywhere. And therefore, if the challenge of data spaces is breaking silos, I think this is exactly what we should be doing, is trying to bring people who are interconnected, travel and tourism, but not necessarily speaking to each other. Like public transportation is mostly for inhabitants, okay? This is most of where they get their flow. But at the same time, for instance, Paris is one of the most visited cities in the world, and they use public transportation. So, of course, the infrastructure might not be directly built for these temporary, let's say, inhabitants, but of course, they are trying to use the same infrastructure. Also, I think travel and tourism also bring soft power to to a country, to an area in its promotion and attractiveness. The monuments, if we rebuilt Notre Dame, etc., it's because there's a pride in making it pretty and welcoming and everything. And I think, therefore, it's not just the museums and the paintings and the sculptures. It's also how you actually get people from point A to point B, how you treat them, and how you make the whole experience very, very welcoming. And therefore, I think there, of course, affordability is some of it. But for instance, using public transportation makes it more affordable. We have a few solutions, for instance, in our ecosystem with a startup called All the Way that actually helps people with their luggage. Okay, this is more transport and logistics. But actually, if you're not encumbered by with your luggage, then you might feel that you don't have to take taxis and decide to, go walking or take a bus, which you wouldn't do if you had big suitcases. So I think we need to think it as an experience, and of course, this benefits locals as well. Okay, so the money that is maybe invested from the tourism industry, which is an industry that brings a lot of foreign money into the country, actually benefits as well inhabitants. So these are really linked, and I think we should think it as just temporary inhabitants.
Okay, thank you, Christopher. If you want to say something.
I just wanted to add one example. If you think about how these sectors can be linked, if we think about traveling to other cities, we all know that it can be challenging to navigate the tariff jungle of public transportation, right? What kind of ticket do I need for what zone, et cetera, et cetera. Uber works pretty much the same way everywhere. right? And other ride-sharing services. So in the future, perhaps if we manage to integrate data and allowed for sharing at the back end, and then allowed for users, travelers, citizens to use whatever app they want on the front end, to have a simple booking experience and a seamless end-to-end trip planning every single time, I think there's huge potential there.
For sure, no doubt. Okay, now we have a couple of questions in the chat. This one is for you, Jonathan. How are you solving the discontinuity of data to have a full picture of the MICE tourist journey?
This is a challenge, and this is actually one of the advantages that a data space can help solve. I'm not going to say it's easy, but I think it's because it's so hard that it shouldn't be done every time. Okay, so you're going to get that issue every time you need to do a project. Okay, you want to do an app, you have to connect all these players together, and then here comes a study, a benchmark, and you have to connect all these players once again. And this is something that everyone sees, and then therefore they don't do these projects because it's too complex, it's too costly, it takes too much time. And therefore, if someone actually starts involving themselves in data spaces, they're putting people around the table. And the first use case might be actually quite difficult because it's new, it's different. But then the next has another use case, and a third another use case. And in the end, we all find each other around the same table. And it's the concept of internet or telephones. No one wants to be the first, but the more people are around, the more convenient it becomes. And therefore, I think the discontinuity is a real challenge in the real world today, where you have to go and knock on the door of every single actor to get what you want. And once you have that, you want to make sure no one else does the same as you, so you can keep all the investment that you've done getting these people connected together. Now, if it's in a data space, actually, we're all doing it together for the good of everyone. And so it becomes a digital common, which actually benefits the economy, it benefits our strategies, public services, etc. So I think it's hard, and I wouldn't say it's easy, really, but I think we need to do it, because otherwise nothing will change.
Dolores, do you want to add something?
Yes. Yeah, just to complement Jonathan, when I made the presentation. So what is important in data spaces is data discoverability. What we are seeing is that thanks to data spaces and this work we are doing at the level of the pilots, different stakeholders are being engaged. And this is what I think Jonathan was mentioning, what it's important. We're generating the awareness, we are defining the use case, we are identifying which are the data sets that are needed to implement the use cases, but we are working at the level of the project, we are working at the level of the pilot. Then we have to bring this to real environments. And this complexity also, most of the challenges that we have in the tourism industry is because we don't know where data sets are and who owns these data sets. So I think data spaces are going to play a fundamental role in this discoverability of the different data sets, and then will allow to have this full picture on what's happening, not only at the level of a very specific industry, but at the level of the tourism industry in general, and also with other data spaces.
Okay, thank you so much. We have other questions. I don't know, it's not addressed to anyone, so I mean, they are general regarding qualification and validation of the centralized and federated system. How do you plan to run E2E test of such data space? I don't know, Saulo, if you want to address the question to anyone in particular. Who has ownership of this coordination? How do you ensure compliance of each node joining the data space? And do you run a sort of interface control document interface? I don't know who was first. I'm so sorry. I was reading Dolores or Christopher.
Dolores was.
Dolores was the first one? Okay, Dolores.
Okay, well, in the case of the tourism data space, we are still defining this governance. That's why I was mentioning that we have developed this rule book. When we are discussing about the ownership of the coordination, for us, what we call is the governance authority. In our case, in the tourism data space, we don't have a specific EDIC, which could have this role of coordinating what's happening at the level of the data space. But this is something that is going to be solved at the end of the project. What we are doing now, it's working at the level of the projects, and we have the data spaces support center that are also helping to coordinate all the different common European data spaces. And specifically within the data spaces support center, we have a specific pilot in which we are analyzing how interoperability between two different data spaces as deployEMDS and DEPLOYTOUR could work together with a specific use case. And we are trying to do it now because we saw that this is something that emerged as a challenge that can happen between different data spaces. So at the level of the tourism data space, there is no EDIC. So this means that there are no single figure that is going to generate this governance structure and is going to ensure that all the rules that are going to be set are going to be respect. But it's something that we are going to try to solve in the rule book that we have just started to develop now.
Okay, thank you. Christopher, please.
Yeah, just to add to that very briefly, this is a big challenge. Of course, we're talking about federated systems here with data spaces existing at the local level, at the regional level, at the national level, and then we're talking about, a kind of European overarching framework and how it all goes together. So I think we're all still in the process of figuring out exactly how this works, also with support of the Data Spaces Support Center that is looking at cross-sector and federated interoperability. To give you an idea of how it works within the deployEMDS project, I would invite you to look at our deliverable 2.3, which is our technical deliverable where we sketch out the proposed architecture for the data space, considering that there are existing data spaces already at the regional level and how they could be integrated. In terms of the governance, this is a big question to solve, and I think it will take us all some more time to solve it, and will require some complex multi-layer governance to get there.
Okay, thank you. 2 additional questions. How do we tell the difference, a tourist, traveler, and any other kind of traveler registration of payment card?
I can do that. I was trying to write a very long, extensive answer to Tim, so thanks for asking. And I know you know how complex this answer is, so I will try to answer it as best as I can. I won't say that we found a solution, otherwise, I would be lying. But I know how difficult it is for DMOs to actually get the answer between tourist travelers and other kind of travelers. And I really need to emphasize here that, of course, you can have locals, but you can have lots of other people traveling which are not local, but that are not tourists either. Okay, so if you really go in the details, everyone traveling is not a tourist. You have refugees, you have truckers, you have people, going to the hospital for something. So you're not all visiting museums. Okay, so if you really want to get into the details, it really becomes very complex because they have the same metrics and it's very easy to make assumptions and be very wrong. I was discussing with the Paris area, for instance, and they were observing some telecommunications data during the summer, trying to assess, who was coming to Paris during the summer with phone data, and they were having lots of Polish all over the city. And the guy was explaining to me that probably there were some truckers going on a road and that were just, messing up the statistics. And there were lots of Polish truck drivers, and it made it look like, all of a sudden the Polish tourists were coming from everywhere. So you really need to look in depth, and it's complex. However, what we do is we're trying to make it more comprehensive by being able to discriminate eventually some of the data instead of having 1 or 2 sources to have a wider choice, and that's the work that all the data engineers and analysts do to try and cross data together. But for the moment, there's a very little availability of that data. And so by opening up new choices, but also by creating new business models for data that isn't shared, okay, this is also one challenge. There's lots of treasures out there, but they're not shared. That really gives more insights for destinations.
Okay. And is group mobility within scope via public transport and collective transport, including private coaches? Someone wants to ask, Jonathan or Christopher?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what this was referring to, and we're almost out of time. So just briefly, of course, within our project, anything that has wheels that is not a car. No, public transit and all forms of urban mobility are within scope within DEPLOYEMDS.
But if you're looking at travel, tourism with groups, FITs, etc., yeah, they can be in the scope. We're just trying to ask the stakeholders on the ground really what is their priority to observe. But yeah, groups are actually a little bit more complex because they're a bunch of individuals that act as a one entity, and so they have a little bit. It's a difference in the data that you're collecting.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have say MICE industry depends on private coaching as well as group leisure and access for both a hot topic from local governance perspective. Okay, I think we should extend this this webinar for an additional hour, but unfortunately it's time. It's 11. So Dolores, if you want to say something to finish, now is the moment.
Well, the first word is thanks. Thanks for the large number of people attending this webinar, and thank you so much to DEPLOYEMDS for the presentations, for being here, Christopher, Morgan, Clemens for your presentation. Of course, the support of DigiConnect with Christoph Arpat is also here. It's very, very welcome, and of course our partner Jonathan from UNIX, which is in the two projects, and also help us to coordinate also these interoperability projects that we want to implement within the two data spaces. This webinar is recorded. We are going to then to put it in the website. Also, perhaps with DEPLOYEMDS, we will check how to better communicate it in order that is going to be available. And of course, we are going to continue organizing more webinars in the coming months with other data spaces. So please follow us. And if you have any doubt, and if any of you have any question that you couldn't do today, or perhaps you didn't want to do and you wanted to address it directly, please do so, and we will give you an answer from our side, and also I'm for sure, so sure from the DEPLOYEMDS side. So thank you so much for your participation, and have a great day. Thank you.